Good morning, NIO fam. It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. It is 9 a.m. in the morning. My family's still sleeping. We were up late. We were watching what movie did we watch last night? Despicable Me for like the fifth time. My son loves Minions. So we were watching a movie late last night. Ended up not going to bed early. I'm up before him, hoping to get this video up before he wakes up so I can kind of get this video out and not interrupt with family time. I know last week there were some comments from my last week's video saying that people appreciated the longer video. So I'm not going to try and rush this video, but I'll also try and not ramble and make it too long. If you're brand new here, we drop one of these videos once per week to try and share where we see NIO going into next week. If you're making a big financial decision, please do your own research and your own due diligence. I like to start off with a quick story time. What happened to me this week was my phone. I have a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, and the LED or the LCD screen stopped working and responding to touch. And now to replace it, I went to the mall and I asked one of the cell phone mechanic repair shops, pretty good shop there. I've taken it there before, how much it would cost to repair the screen. They're charging $500 for a brand new screen, comes with a new battery. And my phone is about 3 years old. And so now I have the option. Do I spend $500 and just repair the screen and the phone just works just fine now? Or do I just upgrade my phone with my mobile service provider and end up going on like a 2-year contract and going to the S25? The S25 is faster. S25 Ultra is faster. It's better. It's newer. But I'm pretty satisfied with mine, and I'm not sure if it's going to be worth the money, so I'm back and forth, but I do like fast. I do use my phone every single day, so I'm leaning towards that, but I'm just curious. I'd like to know, what do you think I should do with my phone? Should I pay the $500 for a brand new LED? It's like a very high-end, like the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra comes with like a super special OLED screen. And when I pay that $500, it comes with a brand new battery as well. So it'll be pretty good for the next couple years for $500. Or do I go on like a 2-year contract and like finance like a $2,500 phone? Decisions. I'm trying to figure it out. You guys let me know. I'd love to hear your comments. I haven't decided yet, but I am thinking of going to the mall because it's driving me crazy. I can't touch a portion of my screen. There's a vertical strip of it where I can't even like push the letter P on my phone when I'm trying to like text or type anything. It's horrible. Okay, that's my story time. You guys didn't come here for that. You guys came here to see where the heck is NIO going, and I'm here to give you my time and share where I see that. We don't just look at NIO here. We look at Baba, Baidu, KWeb, and JD, and we're also going to dive into the Seng index, and when we have time, we'll also look at the US dollar. We'll peek at Bitcoin because Bitcoin, I feel like is a major leading risk asset. We'll look at the U.S. We'll look at all those things, and then we'll come up to a conclusion, and we'll try and break it down into sections. So best way we can do. Now, what you're looking at my screen, by the way, is my custom velocity indicator. We've talked about it last week. What you're looking up here is NIO now. This was the Baba fractal, by the way. This is the Baba fractal that I had laid out over top of it. And my thesis from last week was we need to build a much more bigger and stronger base. And that's what Baba had to do. This is what Baba looked like before it made its big bounce after its weekly velocity break. So let's start with the weekly real quick here. I'm going to show you what it looks like on NIO here. And I'm going to erase some things here so you can see it neatly. Here's NIO. It's come right back down. This is a pullback on the weekly time frame. The time frame is bullish on the weekly. The reason it's bullish, if you don't know, as you're looking at it, is it's making higher highs, higher lows. It's broken above our midline, which is the 3.5. There's our higher high. There was our higher low. And it's poised to make another higher low. And you want to see that bounce kind of come in before it hits that midline. I'm just going to jump real quick because we're on the weekly time frame as an example, and we will do a little bit more of a deeper dive on Baba. Here we go. There's Baba. I apologize. My nose is like running. I don't even have any Kleenex. Oh, I do have Kleenex here. I'm just gonna blow my nose real quick here. All right. I apologize. It always happens in the morning. I don't know if that happens to any of you guys, where your nose starts running. Maybe my room is too dusty. I'm like mildly allergic to dust. I think we all are. And I try and vacuum my room. I've got carpet in my bedroom, and I try and run an air filter. But it is what it is. Um, Now, if you pay attention here, real quick to Baba before we dive right back in, we're on the weekly time frame for Baba. When Baba finally made its big breakout right over here on the weekly, it needed to come back down and base and bottom. And how did that look like? Well, I took this fractal, which was these candles, and I might have went down into the 4-hour time frame, which is, I believe, what I did. And that's what that base, you can see I actually copied it right here. This was it. You see this thing? That was Baba. Now if we go back into, and what happened was it came down and it launched back up. Now if we go to NIO, I literally took that. I kind of tried to line it up as best as I could. And I believe this is what's in store for NIO. So it's important, guys. When we're looking at these time frames, to start from the top up and bottom. So this is kind of like an educational lesson for anybody who's looking to trade stocks. And if you're just trading NIO, to pay attention to the bigger and larger time frames. In fact, you can even, if you really want to see the big moves, you can even go to the monthly. Now the monthly is, here, I'm going to show you. The monthly is bullish here actually still, and I'll show you why. Is it finally made a higher low on the monthly and a higher high on that monthly velocity. And if the month closes out red, you're poised to set up and make that big move higher. Now you go to the weekly. All we need for the weekly for NIO is to build and bounce. How do we get a bounce? We need the higher low to form on the 24-hour time frame. So now let's go and look at the 24-hour time frame. Let's see if we have a curl based off last week, because now NIO's kind of, the selling's pretty much stabilized. It's building a bit of a base. Here's what the 24-hour looks like. Okay. 24 hours, well, I'm liking it. Here, I'll tell you what I like, and I tell you what I need to see for the 24 hours for us to continue to see that reversal. Talked about this trend line here breaking to the upside, giving us that true confirmation. But more importantly, I like what I see here. We have a potential bottom that's forming right over here, okay? And I'm going to use this line, this horizontal line, to illustrate where we are. So we got this bounce here. It's still forming a lower high, but what I anticipate at some point in time, either next week or throughout the next couple of weeks, for us to form a higher low. If it forms a higher low, that will be a strong buy signal, and enough, in my opinion, to curl up our weekly velocity. And the end result of a higher low forming on the daily trigger will line up with the bullish weekly trigger. You'll get a squeeze. Now, not a short squeeze, but an explosive, rapid acceleration, the exciting price action that we all were used to pretty much in the last rally on NIO. And I do believe that it's coming. Now, if you can just look back over here. The last time we got a higher low was here and there. It built a higher low, gave you a little bit of a dip here. And if you don't know what that looks like on the price, let me show you. It looked like this. On the price, made a higher low. And it was kind of doing nothing near all-time lows. And all of a sudden, whoosh, it just did like 100+% rally. Almost nothing. And then, boom, kind of did it. And what this did, by the way, when it made that higher low, I'm going to make a vertical line. And this is part of the educational process to help you guys understand. When that daily, which made that higher low here, go to the weekly. Look what it did. It flipped that weekly. Now, we want to do the same thing. We want to catch the same thing. We want to see this flip. This flips once we get the higher low. Now, what does this mean just by looking at it? This means that the price still does need to come back down and build a higher low. So whatever bounce that we do get, and now I put the Baba fractal here because if we did get this Baba fractal, I think there's still some more room for upside on this dead cat bounce, possibly up to 6. I think we could see that. It's badly oversold, and I think that would be healthy price action. So you would get this big move up, but I still anticipate that one more move lower, which will help us form the very first higher low. And that's when it's going to get very exciting. Very, very exciting, because then pretty much what's in store for us is waiting in this. It's important to start from top-down analysis when you're doing the stock trading. One of the beginner trades, beginner mistakes that a lot of people make when they're trading stocks is they drive down into like the 5-minute, the 1 hour, or even the 2 hour. Here's the facts. If the 24-hour has not flipped, like when this curls down, when the 24-hour curls down, it doesn't matter what happens on the 12, 8, 4, 2, or 1 hour time frame. Everything curls down with it, no matter what. And I'll make a point here for you. Look, right over. I'll just go somewhere here. Look, I'm pointing right to this point where it's even down here where we don't have a higher low. You can see everything flip bearish probably right there too on the 24. And so to go and try and time something different, or I can do it right here too. I'll do 2 of them to really make a point. Everything flips bearish. So I'll show you the 4 hours. You get the lower high, everything's bearish. You get the lower high, everything is bearish. Everything flips bearish. And it's important when you're trying to time these things, we need to get that higher low first and foremost on the daily. And we're close, guys. If you look at historically, the mean reversion, by the way, on NIO would be this blue line. It always bounces back to this blue line. Always, always, always. Because that's the middle of the line. It's going to bounce. It's mean reversion. And the 200-day moving average, it'll come back. It'll retest this actually at some point in time. You saw it happen right over here. Pretty much on every single sell-off. You saw it kind of something like that happen right over here. You're going to get upside. There's going to be upside price targets. But we want that confirmation. And it could happen. It could potentially happen next week. But because we haven't got a confirmed visible higher low, at least from what I can see, I still remain cautious that there's going to be still a move lower. But I think we could still see, and I'm going to show you how this. I still believe we can see this rise higher to finish off this bounce, because this bounce was nothing. What was that bounce? Chart's getting messy. We're literally going to erase everything. I like a clean chart. That bounce was, 10%? That's nothing. In fact, let's measure that from a Fibonacci perspective. That bounce didn't even test the very first fib level, which is 539. And even the second one, 580. Or the third one, which is 614. So even if we wanted to finish this move, we could see our velocity come up and form a much deeper higher low. So it would look like this in the price. And it could do that. It doesn't have to make a lower low on the price. It could. Given the momentum, you could totally see that. But we need to continue to see strength. We want that. Once we have this, your dip is go time. And that dip, by the way, doesn't have to be deep. It could look like it could be tiny. That could be all that you need. It just needs a little bit of time to confirm that a higher low. It could look like this. This could be your bottom. Now let's go and look at smaller time frames to just really drill down, because we know what we want in the 24-hour. The question is, if we know this needs to curl back down, you'll notice each time the daily curves back down is when our 4-hour time frame makes a lower high. So we're going to do this methodically. I think I said that right. We're going to go down to the 4-hour time frame. Take a look. As it kind of made a base, it made a lower high here, and then it came back down. A lower high, and that was kind of it. And the lower high on the velocity doesn't always necessarily mean a lower high on the price. It actually made a higher high here. It didn't quite do that here. But what I think we need to see here for us to see that this short-term rally is over is a lower high that needs to happen. And why would I want to watch that? Well, the reason I want to watch for that lower high, and it might not be like that. It might be like that. The reason I want to watch for that lower high is this will give us that confirmed curvature down on that daily, and it'll now start setting up a 24-hour move on the higher low. And when we get that 24-hour move on that higher low, go back to the weekly, it's going to curve us up. And we're going to get legitimately a huge move. So let's see if I can pull back that fractal. I'm literally pushing Control Z here because I think it's important, because it helps visualize price action. This is Baba's price action before it kind of pushed out and made higher highs and higher lows. Even if we were to come up, give you a bounce, and trickle back down to 439, I still remain very, 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 very bullish. It's just a matter of a waiting game. Now, if we were to go real quick, I'm going to erase my drawings again. Measure how long we've been in a downtrend. This is another thing that we measure, is the time and date. This has been down. Wow, look at that. 70 days. You want to know a fun statistic? I think most of you guys who follow me know this statistic, but in NIO, all downtrends never was shorter than 90 days. You would get minimum 90 days in a downtrend. At minimum. 100% of all downtrends, with the exception of this. Every single one since IPO took over 90 days. Some of them took 120 days. Some of them took 150 days. So that's between 3 to 5 months of a downtrend. Statistically, this downtrend needs to reach at least 90 days, which takes you right up until the end of the year. And what do we know about January? There's leap options. There's big traders. There's a lot of volatility. It's a major quarterly, monthly option expiry. They call it OPEX, where the options expire. And typically we see a lot of big rallies that happen around that time. And so timing-wise is very, very interesting. Now, when I look at the 24-hour again, on our 200-day moving average, it's still forming a higher low. It's taking time, but now we have the recipe for it. What we want to expect, by the way, what we should be expecting is a curve down. Eventually it's going to curve down. So when it curved down the last time, you got like this nasty price action. When it curved down this time, it wasn't as nasty, but it came down. I do expect us up and then right back down, but what I think is going to become, what's going to be different, and we need to wait for it, for the confirmation, is we're waiting for a higher low to form. So I'm cool, even if next week it wants to come down, so long as it forms a higher low. if it forms this higher low, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, I'll put a little line there. I can then go on the 4 hours. Let's just say it did that next week. Came down. On that higher low, the next higher low that you get on that 4 hour time frame, that's your long entry. That's like your bottom. That is going to be your bottom. And I'm going to show you this thing for fun here. So we're going to erase again. And we're going to go back to study. This is how we do. This is how we can set these trades up. If we go over here, and it made a higher low over here, and we say, okay, we got a higher low. Let's see what that looks like on the 4 hours. Let's go drill back into the 4 hours. Look what we're getting now on that 4 hours. We're getting basically higher lows that are forming. It's basically set up a long signal here on the 4 hour time frame. And you can clearly see our 200-day moving average also making that higher low. And that's what we want to see. We want to see that, and it's going to be super exciting. Now, what do we know when I look at the 4 hours? It made a lower low here. Made a lower low here. However, what else do we know? It made a higher high now. So we're seeing some nice recovery here. We know the 24-hour needs to come down. So I'm expecting something like this. Oh. And this is kind of how I imagine it. All right. So something along this lines, which completes our bounce, our 4 hour bounce here. I think it's just starting. I think we see a much more bigger move to the upside. I don't think we've seen it yet. But at some point in time, if we're patient, you should expect that lower high to come in. The buyers kind of get exhausted. The algorithm brings it down. It brings our 24 hours down, and we get our confirmed higher low. That's where I am from a price targets perspective. Let's erase everything. This is important too. So we want to cover price targets on NIO. A lot of you guys really just want price targets. You don't care for the education, but the education is important. If you don't understand how that works, then you're going to struggle. You're not going to be able to make those decisions. So we're going to go into our log scale. You can see it's trading right below 517. Which is for this entire setup was a important Fibonacci level. Wait, did I do that right? What did I do? Let's see for a second. I didn't do that right. Yeah, it's trading right under 515. But our golden pocket, as we've talked about last week and the week before that and every other week, how I said that's a possibility, sits at 451. And when you take that fractal, which is this, we're going to copy it, bring it back over here. You could see something along that lines. This could be what it could, and it might be shorter. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just trying to tell you. So far, we don't have that higher low that's forming yet, but we're damn close. I can tell you that right now. I mean, like this is brutal price action for NIO, and I do think there's going to be something giant right around the corner. So price targets, I don't think we're clear for 450 being out of the question. I still think it's on the menu. 450 is still on the menu here, you guys, as us potentially visiting. But it may want to first finish this bounce. And I'm just going to go ahead and say 6. 6 is an interesting number. Nice and round. Wouldn't that be fantastic? That would be a nice bounce, another 10-15%. I would still be cautious if we got that next week. So we got the continuation. We're going to still want to be cautious. We're going to want to watch for that lower high. We want to watch for the daily to curve down. We don't have the setup yet on the 24, and that's what matters the most. We want the higher low. And the higher low doesn't have to come back down to 450. Just because I said it's on the menu doesn't mean it doesn't have to go down there. I think it's better to be conservative and set your expectations up for that. I would not encourage you to day trade this and try and okay, Laser said $6, so I'm going to sell 6 and try and buy it back at 450. I don't encourage you to do that because it may not do that. You might miss it. It might only come back down to 550. And off it goes. I don't know. We got to play this week by week. Sometimes people send me messages on Twitter saying, hey, what's going on? It's really, really tough to make an analysis after a day of trading. We really need to see the week play out. But what I can tell you is we're getting close. We're getting closer, guys. And we got to kind of hang tight. And it's looking good. It's looking good. But I do see us pushing up over the next couple of weeks, finishing off this dead cat bounce. I don't see any exhaustion yet on that 4-hour time frame. Okay. So for upside targets and going into next week or the week before that, if I wanted to get very technical, we'll use our Fibonacci to measure a retracement level. I've had someone ask me why is a golden pocket so popular? It just so happens to be when it got its first sell off, it's a very common thing that you see over and over again. It actually bounced just over the golden pocket, but it was a major level, 733. Now, if this bounce ends up giving us a golden pocket run, that's still $6.39, which would be interesting. I would be super bullish. It doesn't have to. 597 is a price target that I would expect for upside. It would give us our lower high on the price as well. And you would look for 565 as well. And on the overall bigger scale, 572. Okay. 572. That's probably your most conservative price target I can give to you on the upside. That's it. That's what I'm calling for on NIO. I'm not going to go to the 2-hour. I'm not going to go to the 1 hour. It doesn't matter what the 2 and 1 hour are doing. And I've talked about this. If the 4-hour has not set up, and let's just say the 4-hour says it's going to set up for a drop. Once the 4-hour drops, the 2-hour becomes bearish. The 1 hour becomes bearish. Once the 24-hour drops, everything's going to flip bearish. So that's what we're watching for. We're watching for that this thing to finish, give us a pullback down. And I like to aim lower. It really just helps mentally. If you prepare for it mentally, you're not getting so emotionally upset. It keeps you grounded. And I think that's important. Managing your stress. We talked about this in my last week's video. Stress could kill you physically and it can manifest into something really bad. And that's why, if you watch my last 6 video, I encourage you guys, if you haven't already started, just as a friendly PSA reminder, please go for your daily walks. Go for your walk. It's good. It's healthy. You want to go for your walks. Physical activity, step away from the stock market. But my goal here is hopefully to share what I see. It's not matter of fact. I'm just letting you know these are my opinions. It could be wrong. But that's it. That's my analysis here on NIO. Now I'm going to go and dive into Baba, Baidu, KWeb, JD. We're going to go ahead and look into the Hang Seng index. We're going to look at the US dollar and see if we can piece together the rest of the puzzle pieces of the pie. Now, if I were to go to Baba, for instance, that looks awful because I drew all of these lines. There we go. That looks okay. Interesting setup when I look just at the velocity on Baba. Baba has a really interesting setup. Noticed it's already forming a potential higher low, potentially. So we have a possibility for a bottom to potentially be in. So long, and if we want this full, we want BABA to make a higher low here and say and call the bottom. If the bottom is in a BABA, the 24-hour will only curve once our 4-hour makes a higher low. So look over here. I'm going to show you the last time it curled up. There was your lower low. It made a higher low. And it helped curl up this. Now on the 4-hour, interesting. It's got that setup. I mean, it is curling down, but we want to see it make a higher low. Did it make a higher low here? So I see here on the 4-hour time frame, it made a lower high and a potential lower low. So it's cutting it close. But if I were to try and be biased to fit the narrative of NIO, we could see BABA. I don't want to call it, but personally, I think BABA and NIO and all the China will bottom together. It's very close. It's a very close call, but I think what's going to happen for BABA as well. It's so close, but I think there's a chance it makes a lower low. It's going to have to start forming its higher low. It's going to flush the lows out at 149. I think you're going to get a flush. That's just my bias here on the 4 hours. It looks pretty extended. I could see it maybe lift a little bit higher, maybe test 160 again, and then you kind of get that drop. Maybe a little bit more upside next week, over the next couple of weeks to line up with BABA. Something along this lines. Maybe it comes up, gives you that lower high, and it comes down. Gives you that big move down. Overall, it's healthy though. I like that it's actually, in my opinion right now, the setup is a little bit better than BABA, a little bit better than NIO. It's a little bit better because it's already pulled back on the daily time frame and on the weekly, right? We're trying to get continuation. It's been pulling, it's pulling. We want it to flip back up. And in order for it to flip back up, we need the higher low. If it gets that higher low, maybe the bottom's in above. If that's the case, if the bottom is in, I mean, and I've talked about this last week as well, it could mean tremendous things for the rest of China. It's too close to call. It's tricky. I just don't think we're quite there specifically. I know BABA and NIO are two different equities, so they could potentially trade differently. I'm going to quickly look to see if Baidu has anything. So this is kind of the way I had it drawn out from the last time we talked. I had this drawn out from last week. Interesting. Take a look at Baidu. Baidu has been crushing it. And what did Baidu do? Want to see something interesting on Baidu? Baidu made a higher low already on the daily. Baidu's moved up 20%. Did Baidu break this trend line? I think it did. Just barely. Well, you can see it kind of, it knifed 2.5% down. 4-hour time frame on Baidu. Interesting. Look what we have here. A lower high on Baidu. What does that mean on the 24-hour? That means this thing's going to curl back down. There's room, there's gap. It left a gap down here at 119. It left a gap down at 112. I could see Baidu, maybe because it's been super hot, wanting to cool itself down. And off it goes. Baidu's a little bit, it's been performing better than even BABA, in my opinion, and also NIO short term. And the setup is looking better and better and better. It's a very interesting thing. It's tough. We got to play it by day. But as of right now, we still don't have a velocity break. There's signs that of a topping here. on short-term top here on Baidu, where it formed a lower high. And to see lower on Baidu, it would have to break lower. If it doesn't break lower and makes another higher low, it's just another long setup. It could easily give you continuation. You could get that on Baidu, potentially. It's tough to say. To be honest, if this was a NIO chart and I was looking at this, I would say it's go time. Look, you've got your higher low. The weekly's trying to turn up, actually. It hasn't turned up yet. It hasn't turned up yet, actually, on the weekly. Which tells me, and the 4 hour showing weakness, which tells me what you're most likely going to get. You will still get that last move down. It'll form that overall higher low, and off it goes. KWeb. Interesting. We're well below the midline, actually. You can see how it's not as looking as healthy as Baidu is. I could see here it actually tried to make a higher low right over here. And it tried to go. That would have been huge, but actually what it ended up doing, if you pay attention, is it made a lower high, which is traditionally not the best thing you want to see. It has a chance. If it gives you that reversal here and it makes another higher low, has to reverse hard. You could get that. Because on the weekly, oh, see, this is interesting for Baidu. Baidu just made a lower low on the weekly time frame. I'm going to erase. It's not Baidu, sorry, KWeb. We're looking at KWeb. This is not so great. It did make a lower low just now. What that means is the weekly, I'm going to try to find an example. See, overall it's trending up. You get a bounce. It's tough to say, but the weekly has kind of flipped where if it gives you a lower high, it's scary because you can just get a lower high here. It's a lower, now you're in a downtrend for KWeb. A little bit more scary. You wanted to see that bounce come in sooner for KWeb. KWeb's not as good, but it's not over because overall, when I look at it, it's still trending good. I look at the monthly. Yeah, monthly is just so bullish. To get continuation, we want to see a higher low made on the weekly. So this KWeb might actually take a little bit longer to resolve. It's probably the worst setup so far. I haven't looked at JD, so I apologize. If you're in KWeb, apologies, but that's the way I see it, actually. It doesn't look as good because the weeklies come down and it's made a lower low. JD confirmed lower low on the weekly. Man, it was looking good. This is not looking good, JD, on the weekly time frame. What does this mean? This means no matter what, if I look at the 24-hour time frame, it won't matter if the weekly is bearish. The same thing applies to every single stock. But the reason it's bearish is it made a lower low. Lower lows, it needs to make that higher low before you get that confirmation on the weekly, which is going to take some time to resolve. So I think JD looks the worst out of all of the equities. But if I even look here, let's see. Still holding in this uptrend, but we want to see a higher low. And I can point to the times that it did. Let me point to you how important it is. That's all it took to make a higher low. A little bounce, came back right back down, but it made a higher low. Higher low right here. Higher low here. Higher low here. This was your lower high, and it became like this downtrend. So JD is interesting. I do think we need to see, on a best case scenario, something like this form. Let's erase everything because it's messy. I want to see something like this on JD. There's still time for it to do this. Up, down. If I go in the 24-hour time frame, 24 is interesting because it's kind of similar to, NIO, where it gave you a nice lift. It gave you a lift up. However, it looks to be curling down. That means everything is going to curl down when the daily curls down. And I'm almost positive we got a bearish divergence right here on the 4 hours. Let's look at the 4 hours. It wasn't a bearish divergence, but it was a lower high. It's right over there. Higher high. This was like bulls kind of slowing down here. So I think there's going to be a dip ahead of JD. I would not put like the lows out of the question here yet. Now, the interesting thing with JD is there's a descending support line for JD. I'm going to erase because I think I erased it and I had it up. Let's see if I can get it. Where is it? Where is it? Right here. I mean, I could have just redrew it. Didn't have to erase it. Let's go zoom in. JD might give you that $27 retest. So there you have it. It's still, we're up in the air. It's December. This analysis is meant to be NIO, but I like to look at different puzzle pieces. Out of all of the Chinese stocks that looked the best, I think it was Baidu. Baidu on the 24 hours looks the healthiest, but it still does. It looks like it does need to come down, give you that one more kind of like opportunity to kind of get long. It's looking good. Baidu's looking very, 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 very good. Hang Seng Index. What do we have now here? Ooh, look how messy it is. I got to delete all these old scribbles because it's tough to read. So bear with me while I just delete and clean it. Let's delete the path. Let's delete these. And the arrows. Okay. Here's our Hang Seng Index on the weekly. So we also have a lower low on the weekly. So this is bearish so far on the weekly time frame. We need to see a higher low. But the only way this curves up is the 24-hour time frame needs to curve up. Let's see, the 24 hours. Oh, look at this. What do we have here? So we could be seeing a rally that's forming here on the Hang Seng Index. Look at what we have here. Interesting. We hit a new low. It's curling up to make a higher low. Now that full curve happens when you get the higher low on the 4 hour. I'm going to draw a vertical line right there. Let's see if the 4 hour supports that. We might be able to catch that reversal on there. Interesting. There's our 4 hour time frame. Moving up. I don't know if you would want to call this a higher low. It's kind of, it's questionable. I do think it's interesting. I don't know where I would call it. Not out of the woodworks when I go into the 4 hours. And because the weekly is bearish, all I know is even if we do get a continuation into next week, there's going to still be that one more drop that's going to come. And I know that that frustrates a lot of people because I tend to say that very often. But we're looking for higher lows. And when you get lower lows, as we did on the weekly, we want to see higher lows. And to get higher lows, it means there needs to be a dip. And so that is something that you're going to want to kind of pay attention to. It's not fully clear right now. I do believe we do need a bounce. And we do eventually need to test a 200-day moving average. but it's something to watch. Overall, it's still trending up. If I go into the monthly, is the monthly bullish? Yeah, the monthly's bullish. Monthly is bullish, but we could see something. Nothing super crazy. The 24-hour is setting up, though, for a bounce. Is Santa Claus coming to town? Yeah, I mean, maybe. And when I look at my parallel channels here, we could get a move into 2600, potentially 2800 if it does want to give you that big rally, actually. So let's, I'm torn. I don't have any strong signals here, even on the 4 hours. It's choppy, to say the least. Maybe you get a continuation. You get that bounce. And that will help us. If we get continuation next week, and maybe our 24-hour makes a higher low, that could be it. That could be the bottom, actually. We could be very, very close, actually. Not enough information to really be like, yeah, let's get super, super bullish. Again, these are all different equities, but these tie all the different puzzle pieces into NIO. Now, I always like looking at the US dollar, and it's pretty much, it's gotten crushed. Let's quickly go to the weekly. Oh my God, look how messy it is. So what do we have here? We do have a slight uptrend. Gave you that higher low on the weekly, higher high. It's making a high, and now it's curving down. What does that mean? When the weekly curves down, everything goes bearish, which is what we want. We want US dollar to drop. That's going to be more bullish for equities. Now, this weekly curls back up when you get the higher low on the 24-hour time frame. Any signs of that? No. Extremely bearish looking, which is good for equities. You want to see that to be bearish. It just made a lower low this past week. So before we can even see any type of reversal, and this could continue, we want it to see it to make that higher low. And so there could be some pain in store for the Dixie, which is a nice tailwind for all risk assets. You do want to, traditionally, you do want that to kind of come down. And that was something that I was suggesting on that 24-hour time frame. You can see when it flipped. It flipped bearish right there when it got the lower high. Lower high, which on the weekly also is when it's like, okay, it's time to come down. So that's a good thing. I do think there's a lot of potential here to see the US dollar drop, which supports the case that we get that higher low on the Seng index, which will actually give us that potential move higher. And to measure that move, golden pocket 26,458, which is how much of a percentage of a rally? Up 2.84%. That would be great. So I'm just trying to imagine how this plays out. Up, back down, and then up, 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 up. Up. Something along those lines could be in store here. We have the US dollar that supports it. Now, let's look at Bitcoin real quick here because it's a hot topic. I'm just going to touch up on it. It's a risk asset. Some of you might be asking, like, well, why are you looking at Bitcoin? Like, Bitcoin has nothing to do with my NIO investment. It's, I believe it's one of the largest risk assets that represents the risk appetite in the market. If Bitcoin can rise, I think, and it's a very heavily risk dependent. If that rises, that tells you there's a big appetite for risk. That means you can see those tailwinds. The weekly, and I won't even give you the answer. I'll wait a bit, but I know since if you've watched up until now, you could see what you see on the weekly. On the weekly time frame, we have a lower low. There was a low, and I mean, lower low doesn't mean it can't bounce, because it did made a lower low here, and it gave you a much bigger move. Now, it did give you, we could get that bounce, but overall, the weekly trend is bearish. And the only way that flips is if you go into the 24-hour time frame, and you can see it's forming higher lows. The 24-hour looks great. And that actually tells me that there's going to be another big move coming up on that 24-hour time frame. Actually, there could be potential here for this thing to blow up. And look how funny this looks when I line that up with NIO. Similar. I mean, it's not quite the same, but you're getting some sort of correlation there, actually. It's interesting. I think it's due for a much bigger bounce. Bitcoin is interesting. There's a lot of like people like, oh, it's going to go down. Da, 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 da. Well, you don't just go straight down. You're going to get that bounce, actually. And we're at that midline, which is also where you may want to consider that. So it's got to watch for it. Got to watch for it at the moment right now. It does look like it wants to push higher on the short time frame. And that would put its golden pocket at 110. So you could see a continuation into Bitcoin, into its golden pocket retrace. And at which point you would want to be watching for that lower high on this, on the daily. So we gotta be watching for that. We'll watch that. It's not like a super tremendous thing. It's sitting at 90,000. It's basing here. It's in a very, very interesting spot. But you could see when you get the higher lows, how powerful that is. Actually, you got it right there, got it right here, got it right there, and all of those times were like reversals. Here, I'll draw it right over here, higher low, and then you got those continuations and those big moves up. That pretty much sums up my analysis, guys. I don't have tremendously a whole lot of things to talk about. I kept talking about on previous weeks the Robinhood fractal. The Robinhood fractal was anticipating that NIO was going to give us that bounce at the 50%. Now, I wonder if I just did this, if that would lower the 50%. Would you look at that? That even bigger move up here. Would you look at that? Now I'm really messing here with the lines here, but I'm saying, okay, this was one move. If we go and say that and we measure from the complete bottom, I'm doing that to really just be biased. You've got here a 492 support here on NIO. Interesting. Because I'm going to do this one last time here just to show you, because I kept talking about Robinhood before it went completely awesome. From the bottom to the top, it dropped down to the 50%, or just a tag below. It based. Notice how it based right over here. It tagged a 382 right back down, and off it went. We could still have that in the store for NIO. That would mean if that plays in effect here for NIO, you get 553 back to 492. Up he goes. That is literally the Robinhood fractal right there. That is exactly what it looked like. You go back to Robinhood again, and I want to point something out to you on Robinhood right before it went crazy. Right before it went crazy, I want to point out to the higher low that it made on the 24-hour time frame. Look at this. Bottomed at the 50. Gave us a little bit of a lift, and it made a higher low. It lifted up and tested the 0.382, came right back down, but made a higher low. That higher low marked the bottom of this weekly turn. Where'd it go? Did it just... Why can't I see anything? Oh, it's right here. That bottom. And that was that first bounce you got on Robinhood that took out the midline on the weekly. That's what we want. We could still get that. Like, it's... You look at NIO, again, that could potentially... That's still in store. Similar, still in store. So watch that. If we don't get that golden pocket that I talked about, 492 might be your bottom. Might be, if it's going to fall in the footsteps. Like it's all up in the air here. 4 hours continuation. We don't see a short-term bottom, so I can see maybe 553 come into play here, and then we get that one last bounce maybe into 492. That's probably your most bullish case scenario here for NIO. That pretty much sums it up here, guys. And if I'm wrong here about that 492, around 450, even 420, those are big levels. There's actually a gap there. I just realized you can see it. Maybe you see that flush down to the gap, which is 448, 450. That's a interesting spot, to say the least. Regardless, it's getting closer, guys, and you can tell the selling's kind of slowed down. We're getting there. That pretty much sums up my video. This was a longer video as requested. I know I only get one of these videos out once per week. It's Saturday morning. I hope you guys all have a wonderful... and I'll end this off with a quick story time as well, as it's Christmas. It's getting close to that Christmas time. I told my son the other day, like, hey, let's watch Home Alone together, because that's an awesome... We watched it last year, and it's funny. He doesn't remember movies he's watched from a year ago. They don't have that long-term memory. And he's like, no, I don't want to watch Home Alone because there's a tarantula. He didn't like... I showed him the trailer, and he saw the tarantula crawling on the bad guy, and he's like, I hate spiders. It's too scary. He came home from school one day and he says, guess what, Dad? We watched Home Alone in school. And I'm like, did you like it? He's like, I loved it. He's like, now I changed my mind. Now I like it. So anyways, it's that time of the year. We actually watched The Grinch. It was a Illumination, like the animated Grinch, actually. So it's that time of the year to put on Christmas movies. If you got a Christmas movie as well that you want to share in the comment section below, I'd love to hear it. Let me know. We did this last year. If you guys were following me last year, you could hear me talking about Christmas movies as well last year. And again, friendly PSA, guys. If you feel kind of stressed out for this price action, don't. Just relax, take a breath, go for a walk. Don't let this take you down. Don't let the stock kind of beat you up mentally. Stay positive, manifest good things, be good, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the holidays, enjoy Christmas, everyone. And that is it. That is all. I hope you guys got a chance to see and dive right in as to what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking. And if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button. I definitely appreciate that. And that's it. Hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Cheers.